A quiet house in the woods. An empty office at midnight. A delivery to nowhere. In each of these stories, the night hides more than shadows. Something or someone is watching, waiting, and it knows you're alone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Night Terrorexer, your home for the most chilling, immersive, and spine-tingling horror stories you'll find online. Tonight's video plunges you into 3 unsettling encounters. One inside an empty office that isn't so empty after all. Another down a forgotten forest road where a delivery turns deadly. And a final tale of a silent intruder who somehow knew exactly where to find you. These aren't just stories, they're warnings. So turn down the lights, crank up your headphones, and prepare to question what's lurking just beyond your line of sight. If you've ever had a terrifying experience of your own, whether it's paranormal, unexplainable, or just plain creepy, share it in the comments below, or send your story to nightterror@xinbox@gmail.com. I might just feature it in an upcoming episode. If you enjoy the fear, feed it. Like the video, subscribe for more. And remember, nightmares aren't just for when you're asleep. The Man in the Closet. So I was crashing on my buddy Tyler's couch one night, and out of nowhere he says, "You ever hear about the guy that was living in my sister's house while she was dog-sitting?" I laughed at first, thought he was kidding, but then he just looked at me and said, "Dude, she saw him." That's when he told me this story. A few years back, Tyler's sister, let's call her Sam, was in a weird place in life. She'd been road tripping through the West Coast, taking short gigs to cover expenses. Her favorite side hustle was house and dog sitting, decent pay, free place to crash, and sometimes those houses were seriously bougie. One week, she got offered a gig in a secluded part of Oregon, big house, right along the tree line, miles from the nearest neighbor. The owners were a retired couple heading to Mexico for a wedding. They had one dog, a sweet old golden retriever named Sunny. Sam got there on a Thursday afternoon. She met the couple, played with Sunny a bit, and got the rundown on feeding, walks, emergency contacts, all that stuff. Everything seemed normal. Better than normal, really. The house had high ceilings, a wraparound porch, and was surrounded by dense pine forest. It was the kind of place that felt too expensive to be real. By the time the couple drove off, Sam had already made herself at home. She spent the rest of the day lounging around, snacking, playing fetch with Sunny in the yard, and later took her for a walk just before sunset. The dirt road leading up to the house was long and unpaved, surrounded by thick woods. Not a single other house in sight. It was dead quiet out there. As they were walking back, Sam had just turned onto the driveway. She saw someone, a man. He was walking down the long gravel path, heading away from the house. He looked to be in his early 30s, short black hair, baggy jeans, and a hoodie. Thing is, he never looked up, never said a word, just kept walking, like he hadn't even noticed her. Sam stopped dead in her tracks. Her first instinct was that maybe he was a hiker or something, but there weren't any trails around, and more importantly, there was nowhere he could have come from except the woods or the house. She didn't wait to find out. Sam tightened her grip on Sunny's leash and rushed back to the house. Once inside, she locked every door and checked each room with a kitchen knife in her hand. Nothing seemed out of place. No broken windows, no weird footprints. Still, the whole thing gave her chills. That night, she didn't sleep much. But nothing happened. No strange sounds, no knocks, no shadows in the hall. Just silence and the sound of the wind in the trees. The next day was quiet. Sam spent most of it indoors watching Netflix and throwing snacks to Sunny. She told herself she was just paranoid. People hike through national forests all the time, right? Later that night, around 11, she decided to light the fire pit on the upstairs balcony. It was chilly out, but the flames and the blanket around her shoulders helped. She sipped tea and listened to the forest. Crickets, wind, a distant owl. Peaceful. Eventually, Sunny got bored and wandered inside to lie in her bed. Sam sat out there for maybe 30 minutes before she heard it. A bark, then another, sharp, frantic, not at all like Sunny's usual happy bark. Sam's heart dropped. She grabbed her phone and rushed inside. The barking was coming from upstairs. When she turned the corner, she saw Sunny, tail low, ears pinned back, barking into one of the guest bedrooms. The door was slightly ajar, light off. Sam called her name, but the dog didn't move, didn't even flinch, just kept barking at whatever was inside. Sam stepped closer, slowly. Her mouth was dry, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was in her throat. She reached out, pushed the bedroom door fully open. It was dark inside. But across the room, there was a walk-in closet, and the closet door was open just a crack. Something was wrong. She could feel it. She took one step into the room, then another, and reached out to open the closet door wider. It creaked softly. Clothes hung everywhere, casting warped shadows across the floor. Then she saw it. In a narrow gap between the hanging coats was an eye. Someone was in there, watching her, just standing there. Sam froze. For what felt like 10 seconds, neither of them moved. Then instinct took over. She slammed the closet door shut and bolted, grabbed Sunny by the collar, yanked her toward the stairs, fumbled with the lock on the front door, and ran. She didn't even stop to grab shoes, just straight into her car, barefoot, dog in the passenger seat, heart ready to explode. She called 911 as she drove down that endless forest road, hands shaking on the wheel. The dispatcher kept asking if the intruder had a weapon, but Sam had no idea. All she knew was that someone had been inside the house the whole time. Police arrived 20 minutes later. She waited outside with them as they searched the property. They found nothing. Whoever it was, he was gone. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no footprints worth anything. Just gone. Sam told them about the guy she saw walking down the driveway the day before, and the cops nodded like they'd heard it all before. They said it was possible the man had scoped the house out, knew the owners would be gone, and thought it was the perfect place to hide out. He might have broken in before Sam ever arrived, and just stayed quiet, waiting. But here's the thing that still messes her up. If he was in that closet the whole time, then he knew she was there. He knew about Sunny. He heard the doors open, the TV, the balcony fire pit, and he never left. What he was waiting for, no one knows. But if Sunny hadn't started barking when she did, Sam might not have left either. You ever feel like someone's watching you when you're alone in a room? Yeah. Don't ignore it. The Key Card Stranger. So I was hanging out with my cousin Nate last weekend, and right in the middle of our conversation about random jobs, he goes, "Dude, remember when I used to work night maintenance at that office park outside of town?" I nodded, and he just stared at the wall for a second before saying, "Yeah, that place nearly got me killed." Here's what he told me. A couple years ago, Nate had a part-time maintenance gig at a small business complex. It was the kind of place where everything shut down before dinner and stayed dead quiet until the next morning. His shift was weeknights, from 8 p.m. to midnight. No coworkers, no foot traffic, just 4 hours of solo work, cleaning offices and locking things down. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid decent and gave him time to catch up on podcasts or just zone out while mopping floors. One Wednesday night, he got there a little late, around 8:15, but clocked in and went straight to work. About an hour in, he was wiping down the front office desk when the landline phone started ringing. That threw him off. The place had been shut since 6. Clients were long gone, and none of the employees ever called the office at night. Still, he let it ring through. Then 2 minutes later, it rang again, and again, and again. He figured maybe someone was misdialing or a robocall had glitched. But by the 5th time, his nerves started buzzing a little. He walked up to the phone and checked the caller ID. No number, just unknown caller. That's when he got this weird feeling in his gut, like static in the air before a storm. He considered answering, just to tell them the business was closed. But something about it made him hesitate. Instead, he muted the phone and walked away, telling himself to forget it. Probably just spam. 30 minutes passed and he really had forgotten about it. He was upstairs in the tiny break room, sipping vending machine coffee and scrolling through his phone when he heard a sound, an electronic beep from somewhere below. Not a phone beep, something sharper, like a security scanner. Then came the sound of a door opening and closing. Nate just sat there, frozen. There wasn't supposed to be anyone in the building, not at that hour. And even if an employee had come back for something, they'd have to use a metal key like he did. No one had access cards except the building manager. That beep wasn't supposed to happen. He walked to the stairwell and leaned over the railing. Everything was quiet, too quiet. He called out, "Hello? Anyone down there?" What he got in return was silence. Total, stretched out, skin-crawling silence. Then, slow, deliberate footsteps. Getting closer to the bottom of the stairs, he backed up, leaned out again for a better look. And that's when he saw it, a shadow. Tall, still, just standing at the base of the stairs, maybe a foot away from the first step, not moving, not speaking. It didn't make sense. There was no way anyone should have had access to the building. No one should have been there. And the worst part, the man was just waiting. Nate didn't yell or run. He quietly backed into the break room and pulled out his phone with shaking hands. He crouched behind a small table, whispering to 911 as his eyes stayed locked on the open stairwell, praying not to hear those footsteps again. 2 minutes later, the first officer entered the building. Nate heard him yell, "Police! If anyone's in here, show yourself!" Silence. The officer searched every floor. He found no one. The front door had been left slightly ajar, but the real horror came when they checked the security footage. There he was, the man, dressed in black, standing at the base of the stairwell, holding something in his hand. A knife. He wasn't pacing or freaking out. He wasn't even looking around. He just stood there, calm, cold, staring up the stairwell like he knew Nate was up there, even though there were no sounds to give him away. The footage showed him arriving at the front entrance just before the beep was heard. He had used a key card, swiped it like he belonged there. But Nate didn't even have a card. None of the part-timers did. Only upper management had them, and none of them were missing theirs. After standing there for several minutes, the man turned and left just before the officer arrived. No one recognized him. No one knew how he got that card. And to this day, they haven't found him. Nate still works there, still does the night shift, but he never stays a minute past midnight anymore. And now every time he walks past that stairwell, he feels that same weight on his chest, like something is standing just out of view. Watching, waiting. If you ever hear a sound in a locked building when you're supposed to be alone, don't assume it's nothing. Sometimes they're not trying to scare you. Sometimes they're just looking for the right moment. The light in the pines. A friend of mine, Caleb, told me this after we went camping last fall. We were sitting by the fire, just joking about ghost stories, when his face went serious and he said, "Okay, this actually happened to me last year. I've never told anyone because, honestly, I don't know what I saw, but it felt real. Too real." Caleb was a freshman in college at the time. Smart kid, didn't party much but wanted to make extra cash to cover food and hangouts. He picked up shifts driving for a food delivery app, not every day, just when he needed it. He drove this beat-up 2003 Chevy Impala, barely hanging on with a busted headlight and a gas gauge that worked half the time. Still, it ran. Most days, that was enough. One Thursday night, it was about 10 p.m. when he picked up a pretty standard order from a burger joint. Nothing fancy. A double meal, fries, milkshake. He remembers it because the shake had almost melted by the time he got there. The delivery address popped up right off a state highway, leading to a place he'd never been before. Some offshoot gravel road nestled in dense woodland outside of a small rural town. The drive down the gravel road was off. No streetlights, no houses, just thick pine trees pressing in on both sides like the road was carved right through a wall of forest. His car's headlights, already dim, barely lit more than 10 feet ahead. Every bump in the gravel echoed louder than it should have, the kind of silence that makes your ears feel full. Then the road just stopped. Dead end. He looked down at the app. It said, "Arrived." But there was no house, no trailer, not even a mailbox, just trees. He sat for a minute, confused, double-checked the address. Nothing looked off. So reluctantly, he stepped out, thinking maybe there was a path or driveway he missed. He took a few steps ahead, holding the warm paper bag in one hand, squinting into the woods. That's when he saw it. A faint, unmoving light between the trees, way off but clearly visible. It wasn't a flashlight, no flicker or movement. It just hovered behind the tree line, soft and steady. For a second, he figured maybe it was a porch light. Maybe the house was just farther in and hidden by the trees. He walked a little closer, trying to get a better look. But the light didn't get any clearer. It didn't illuminate anything around it. No outline of a structure, no clearing, just the soft bulb of light, surrounded by black. Then without warning, it moved, not toward him, just behind a tree. Disappeared, like it ducked behind the trunk on purpose. And that's when everything in his body screamed, "Leave." He turned to head back toward his car, but that's when he heard it. Leaves, crunching, from right in front of him. Something or someone was walking through the brush. No flashlight, no voice, just steady footsteps on dry leaves, coming closer and closer through the dark. Caleb didn't wait. He dropped the bag and sprinted to his car. Of course, the old Impala coughed and sputtered before finally starting, and as he fumbled to get it in gear, the headlights caught something moving between the trees. A figure, a man, sprinting, not toward the car, but trying to intercept it from the side, as if he'd been watching and knew the road layout. Caleb didn't even think. He floored it. Tires kicking up gravel, headlights shaking with every bump, heart pounding. He saw the guy reach the edge of the woods, just a few feet too late, his outstretched hand nearly brushing the back of the car as Caleb sped past. Once he hit the highway again, he didn't stop, didn't take another order, didn't even breathe easy until he was parked back in his dorm lot. Later that night, curiosity got the better of him. He opened Google Maps, zoomed in on the area where it had happened. There were no houses, no cabins, nothing. Just a narrow gravel road ending in woods. He reported the order as undeliverable, never got another ping from that user. The app said the account was deleted the next day. He still doesn't know if it was a trap or some kind of sick game or something worse. But to this day, he won't drive deliveries outside of city limits. And if he ever sees a light in the woods again, he's not walking toward it.